Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ENS Hoover Show. I'm going to do something a little different this week because I want to keep the recording going and I hope everybody out there is enjoying it. I didn't have a video to post for this week, so I'm making a video about something that I'm pretty passionate about right now, and that is saving money so that I can add more, I guess, investing into my life and recoup some funds. Long story short, in 2023, I probably had the worst year of my investing career when it comes to losses. So I lost in excess of six figures just in random things that happen throughout the year. We're talking as a landlord, you're going to deal with evictions, you're going to deal with tenants not paying their rent, you're going to deal with repairs and maintenance and taxes and insurance and mortgage payments and all this stuff. And it all adds up. And overall, my portfolio's done pretty well on the grand scheme of things over a long period of time. I would say most years I make a small profit or break even. And then you include, the flip I do here or there or the cash out refinance, and then it makes it all worthwhile. However, in 2023, I kind of put the pause on buying things because I just didn't like what I was seeing in the market. I was only buying really specific deals. I did buy a couple properties in 2023. So I ended up, I had a crew of people working for me. I ended up kind of laying that off and kind of putting the pause on because I already saw some negative things coming. And then you add that into the fact that I had some of just the worst luck that I've ever had as a landlord. I had a townhome. I recently sold it actually just to kind of recoup some funds and rebuild my reserves. But I had a townhome. It was built in 2012 in South Fayette, which is a really nice area of Pittsburgh if you're not from Pittsburgh. And my tenant had notified the management company that his water bill had spiked. So we did the typical thing of send the plumber out and he's going to review, leaking toilets and all that and see what's causing it. Well, long story short, he couldn't find anything that caused that. So he essentially had to order a different plumber. My property manager had to order a specialized plumber to go out and check the water line. So I had an end unit on the far right side. The water meters were on the far left side of this. I think it was five or six townhomes in a row. And what ended up happening was there was a leak somewhere between that meter and my unit, and it was my responsibility. That ended up costing about $15,000. I had a lady move out of a house, and instead of letting her, dog out into the yard to use the bathroom, she decided to just, let it use the bathroom in the basement for 4 years. And so that was really, really nasty. I mean, I had to send people in with basically hazmat suits to to clean this place out. And then I had to put the whole property back together. So that was probably another $30,000, $40,000, multiple other evictions and repairs. And I mean, it was just a really bad luck year. And you're going to have that, right? And you plan for that by having reserves put aside. And long story short, a large percentage of my reserves ended up getting eaten up in 2023. I decided my goal for 2024 was make more money and reduce my expenses, right? Those are the two things that I can personally control. I had a couple little side hustle things that ended up paying off pretty well for me. I started a private lending venture in late 23. That's going really, really well. So if you're out there listening, you got some cash in the bank, not making much money on it, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and explain what we're doing in the private lending world here in Pittsburgh. That's going really well and it's bringing in some income. I also I'm a broker for real estate. I took on another company that I am a broker of as well, which also opened up some more opportunities for my real estate sales brokerage with referral opportunities and stuff like that. So it's kind of a win-win for all, but they're paying me a salary essentially for being their broker of record. So I took that on to add some more income. And then I went into major cost reducing modes, right? Like if I wasn't using something, why am I paying for it, right? And we all have those, I feel like ever since the cable industry kind of collapsed and everybody went to streaming. Now we just have you have a Spotify subscription, a Netflix, a Disney. I mean, you have all these subscriptions out there. So I really kind of honed in on what exactly I'm using and what I'm not using. And long story short, I wasn't using a lot of the things I was paying for, so I cut back on those. But I made one major change when it comes to reducing my expenses, and we're going to get into that today. That's what this video is about. And I'm excited to show you that. And it's kind of a controversial topic because I think there's a lot of people out there that are against this. Maybe it's because they just don't know, not educated on it. Maybe it's, they haven't been in one or what. We'll get into that. The other thing that I want to mention is if you don't have a budget, and I don't care, you could be making $1 million a year net profit and be living large. But if you don't have a budget, you don't know what you're dealing with, right? So I highly recommend. I've always had a budget, no matter if I was living large at the time, which I've had really great years, to where I thought I was never turning back, and I've had some years like 2023 where it was just rough. And the one thing that's kept everything in the right direction is having a budget. You know, making sure that my bills are paid, making sure that reserves are being, maintained properly. And I just use an Excel spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy, but I highly recommend if you're not doing a budget to get out there and start a budget, whether you're using a software or an Excel spreadsheet. It really doesn't matter what you're using. But when I analyzed my budget because I wanted to do cutbacks and rebuild my reserves. I want to get back to having six figures plus reserves laying around, and that's really where I like to be. I like to have a large chunk of money just sitting there in the reserves because of the risk that owning real estate long term creates. I decided to really dig in and I was spending a lot of money on my vehicles. I love automobiles. I really do. As soon as as soon as I started making money in real estate, period, even just sales, real estate, first thing I did was treat myself to a new car, right? So, I mean, back in the day, I was driving around like an old beat up Ford Fusion, like a 2012 Ford Fusion that I bought used with like 50,000 miles on it. It was a good car. But as soon as I started making any kind of decent money, I went out and got like the fully decked out Ford Fusion, brand new. And it had the souped up engine. It was kind of fast. And then I eventually upgraded that to my four door sedan Jaguar, which is even faster and more souped up. And then I kind of split it at one point and I got my Jaguar F Type, which I mean it's $100,000 sports car. It's very expensive, but it was a lot of fun. I don't regret it at all because we're only on this planet once, and if you're only ever going to worry about how much money you're saving, what fun are you really having? And I had a lot of fun. I leased that vehicle. I had it for 3 years. It was a lot of fun. It was time for it to go back. So even though I really wanted to keep it, I decided to do the right thing and just let it go back. I can always buy another one someday, hopefully with cash. You know, that's kind of what I want to do moving forward with my vehicles is buy them hopefully with cash if I can get to that point. And I think I'm on the right trajectory to where I'm going to start doing that. And then I had my Bronco, which, if there was any car that was going to compete with how much fun to drive my Jaguar was, it was my Bronco. My Bronco was my everyday vehicle. I had it jacked up, big tires, all that stuff. Lots of fun. It was really fun. There's multiple times where I was stuck in traffic on the highway and I just drove over the mountain in between the two highways to get to the other side. Did a little off-roading and it just all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun. The doors came off, the roof came off. It was powerful, fun to drive. It was just really cool. It was a cool vehicle, and I love vehicles. However, sometimes you got to take a step back and go, okay, well, because my main goal is to cut costs and rebuild my reserves, I need to start making more money and saving more money, right? Those are the two things I need to focus on. So I had my Bronco, my Jaguar went back, I had my Bronco, and then I was looking at my Bronco, which the monthly payment on it was about $900 a month. And then I was putting in a ridiculous amount of money into the gas tank. So I usually drive around 2,500 miles a month. Sometimes it can be more. It depends on how many, clients I'm working with at the time and, what all we have going on. If I'm taking my kids on weekend trips, stuff like that, obviously it takes a huge impact on how many miles you're driving. So I would say between like 25 and 3,500 miles. But for the sake of this conversation, we are going to say 2,500 miles a month. And the gas prices were, getting into the high threes, low fours. When I actually traded the Bronco in, gas prices were $3.75 a gallon. So at 2,500 miles, I was spending about $721 a month in gas. So that's a little crazy to think about. And I decided that the best thing to do was to trade the Bronco in. A good friend of mine has really been showing me the pros and cons of owning an EV, an electronic vehicle, right? An electric vehicle. He has a Tesla. They're really cool. They really are. The Teslas, the technology involved in the Teslas are really cool. I personally geek out at the Model S. It's the high end, kind of sporty sedan. But again, I mean, you're looking minimum 70, 80 grand. If you want the souped up one, you're into the low 100s. And that wasn't going to hit my goal, right? My goal was to reduce costs, and make more money and reduce my expenses, right? That's my main goal. And it's probably a temporary goal. It's probably going to be a couple years to get back to where I want to be. And so that's kind of what I was focused at. And I really didn't see myself driving like a Model 3 or a Model Y. If you don't know the Tesla's models, you can go to their website and take a look at the different ones. But the Model 3 is basically like a little uh, Chevy Cavalier looking thing. And then the Model Y kind of looks like a futuristic Volkswagen Bug, in my opinion, right? Just not my style. And I need to be comfortable when I'm driving. It doesn't have to be sexy like my Jaguar or my Bronco was, but I do want it to be functional and kind of fit me as a person, right? And I actually, before I got the Bronco, my main daily driver was just a basic F-150, and I love that truck. I mean, it got me everywhere I needed to go. Having the truck bed super convenient. My only complaint was that the back seats were kind of cramped. It wasn't a super cab; it was like a crew cab or whatever you call it. So they kind of had just a little bench seats in the back, not very comfortable for anybody more than a child. Anyways, long story short, I decided since I wasn't going to bite the bullet and get a Model S or a Cybertruck, which are the two that I would really be interested in the Tesla lineup, I decided I was going to take a risk and get the Ford F-150 Lightning. For those of you that know me, I do like Ford vehicles. I've been, if it wasn't for my Jaguars, pretty much the last, 6 or 7 vehicles I've owned have all been Fords, right? I'm a big Ford guy. I've had in the couple Ford Fusions. I've had, now a couple F-150s. I really like the Ford product. It fits me well. And if I was going to trust any other manufacturer for an electric vehicle, it was going to be Ford because I know Ford worked closely with Tesla. They were the first manufacturer outside of Tesla to be approved to use the Tesla superchargers. So I decided I was going with Ford and I was going to get the F-150 Lightning. Now, the big choice was, do I go with just the ultimate savings and go with the base Pro model with the lowest range? And that's what I decided to do. It was an extra $10,000 to get about 100 miles more of range. And for my day-to-day commute, I did not think that it was necessary. So I ended up going with, I'm going to actually, if you're watching the video part of this, we're going to share my screen here. This is essentially what I ended up getting. I got a 2023, I believe, F-150 Lightning Pro model is what mine was called. I think they took the Pro out of it. They just call it the Lightning Super Crew, but just a white 4-door, pretty basic truck, right? I mean, if this is any bit near what mine, this looks exactly what my truck looks like right here, except for I've done some modifications to it. I put like, truck bed cover on and stuff like that. But it has a nice touchscreen on the inside, same size as my Bronco had. It's pretty basic. Mine actually has more basic seats. They're just like kind of the pleather seats or whatever. The sticker price on mine was 49,000, and then I got $7,500 EV tax credit. And on top of that, I had a $4,000 Ford loyalty bonus. So I ended up paying just under $40,000. So it was the cheapest brand new vehicle that I ever purchased. Well, not ever, but probably since I was like 18, 19 years old when I bought my first brand new vehicle, which was not really my style of vehicle either. I just went with the cheapest car I could find. It was a 2005 Chevy Aveo back in the day. And that worked well, got me where I needed to go. It was super cheap. I think that was sticker price like 10 or 12 grand on it, brand new. Anyways, long story short, I ended up paying the least amount that I have for a brand new vehicle in my adult life, except for like the first one that I bought when I first turned 18. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with it so far. A buddy of mine helped install the charger at my house. I went the cheap route too. I went on MacBids and bought a cheap charger on MacBids. I didn't even buy like the $1,000 charger from Ford or anything like that. My vehicle did come with a mobile charger, which is essentially the same speed as what I hooked up to my house. It's just not permanent. It's meant to like kind of keep in your vehicle and charge like in emergency situations. So I wanted to keep that one in my vehicle. I bought an actual home charger for my house. So I think all told, I was probably materials and everything, maybe 300-400 bucks in installing the charger into my house. And if you hired an electrician and you bought a better charger, you might be 2-3 grand into that. But in theory, that should be, if you're going to stick with EVs for a while, that's going to need to be a one-time thing. Even if your charger were to go bad at some point, the electric is still there. You just need to swap out the chargers. I want to go over the pros and cons with you. So I clearly saved some money because my Bronco sticker price was like $70,000. My Ford Lightning is like $40,000, right? So there's a sizable savings in the monthly payment. I save about $250 a month, which I'm actually not saving that because I'm just adding it towards the principal now and trying to pay it off quicker because I really want to get this thing just paid off and just own it free and clear. I really think that the long-term advantages with EV is huge. If you go online and you look at some of the EV forums and stuff, there's multiple people that own Teslas that have 1 million miles on their vehicle and it's still kicking strong. Their batteries go down slightly over time. I think the one I was reading that had like 1 million miles on lost like 35% of his battery. But still, if you have 350 miles range and you lose 30% battery in 1 million miles and is still kicking good. I mean, that's something to be said because no engine powered vehicles last anywhere near to 1 million miles. And not to mention there's nothing really else to go wrong with the EVs, right? There's no engines, there's no transmissions, there's no nothing like that. So really all you have maintenance wise is tires, brakes, ball joints, stuff like that that could go bad on the vehicle. Very low maintenance vehicles. So I think long term my goal is to keep this F-150 Lightning, pay it off and keep it long term because in theory it should be good for a long, long time. It could just be kind of my beater work truck at some point once I decided, dip my toe back into a nicer vehicle, which I absolutely will. I just need to reach my current goals. Okay, we're going to actually talk about the pros and cons right now. So, going over the pros, number one pro, I'm super happy about this. No more trips to the gas station. I roll out of my house every morning. My vehicle is fully charged. And well, you charge it to like 80, 90% is what 90% is what Ford recommends. 80%, I think, is what Tesla recommends. I walk out, my vehicle's ready to roll. Bam. I'm off and rolling. I don't have to stop at the gas station. I just go right to where I'm going. I start every day with a full charge. Now, my vehicle with 90% charge, it's around 200 miles I get, which is more than enough for my day-to-day commute. I think there's been one time on my day-to-day commute where I was a little worried about it's going to be tight to get home. So I stopped and got like a supercharger for a few minutes and, got me enough to get home because it's really not a cost savings if you're going to supercharge. I mean, if you have a Tesla, it's probably about 25% less than gas to charge at a supercharger. If you don't have a Tesla, it's probably maybe 5 or 10% cheaper than current gas prices, which are around $3.30 a gallon. Now, if gas prices go down to 2.50 or $2 a gallon, which they should go down drastically here in the near future based on the most recent election and what the Trump administration is planning on doing moving forward. So it's probably going to be more expensive to charge an EV at a destination like at a supercharger than it would be to fill up your gas tank at the gas station. But again, the theory is you're not going to need to do that every day. You're going to need to do that when you're going on long trips or maybe just have a lot of driving, an abnormal amount of driving in one day. And honestly, if you're doing 300 miles a day, then you probably should not get an EV. It's just not going to be a good fit for you. Me, I'm not doing that much. I think if I take my 2,500 miles, we'll just add it up right now. I'm not great at math, so I'm going to use the calculator. 2,500 miles divided by 30 days. That's about 85 miles a day. So I would say I'm in the 85 to 120 miles a day range with my vehicle. I live in Pennsylvania, so I was able to renegotiate my electric cost. So I actually dropped my electrical rate down to 8 cents per kilowatt hour, which after the fee, delivery fees, and stuff like that is right around 10 cents per kilowatt hour, which is really good. That is a fantastic rate. So if you live in Pennsylvania like I do, you can renegotiate that. I believe it's papowerswitch.com. I'll double check the website that I used and put it in the show notes. But that is huge because if I actually add that up with my mileage, so the Bronco, I was spending around $700 a month on average in gas. With my EV, I'm spending my electric bill actually went up $80 a month. Okay, that's the actual number it went up. Now, one of the cons that we're going to get into is hot and cold weather does reduce your range a little bit. Not like drastically, but it does reduce your range. So I'm actually expecting a little uptick in my electricity costs here now that the weather has changed to cold, and we'll get into that a little bit more. There's, like I said, zero maintenance. I'm not even using my brakes very often. I've probably touched my brakes under 30 times since I've owned it because it's the one pedal driving and it's using the engine to regenerate electricity for the batteries. I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's pretty cool. I only use my brakes when I absolutely have to, like a quick stop, that unexpectedly quick stop. Otherwise, it's all one pedal driving, which think of like driving a golf cart. That's kind of the feeling you get. But honestly, once you get used to it, you're like, man, this is how driving should be. It's less work, right? I only have to use one pedal, and it's pretty cool. As soon as you let off the gas, it starts applying the engine braking immediately. It's really cool, which actually, in a lot of my vehicles, I used to engine brake all the time because I was tired of paying for brakes, right? I mean, in my Jaguar, I went through brakes almost every single year. So I really got good at using the engine braking. So very similar as engine braking, just I guess they call it motor braking or, the there's an actual term for it that Tesla uses, regenerative braking, something along those sorts. The other thing is, if you're like me and you like to drive fast occasionally, man, this truck is fast. I mean, you push that pedal and you are gone. It is way faster than any traditional truck I've ever driven. Now, I haven't driven like a Raptor, or what's the Ram version of the Raptor. I think it's called the T-Rex, right? I haven't driven any of those souped up trucks, but even still, EVs typically are faster off the line, so that might beat me in the long run, but I'm probably beating it off the line really, really quick. Just up and go. As soon as you press the pedal, it's going. Not that that's great for your range, but it's just something to take into consideration. If you do have that thrill to want to drive fast from time to time, like I do, that's a huge pro. Okay, getting into the cons, public charging. That's a con. It's a real big con. Now, I'm supposed to be getting an adapter from Ford. It's actually included in my purchase. I just had to like go on the website and fill out a form. I don't think it's included anymore. I think you have to pay for it. It's like a $300 adapter that allows me to charge at any Tesla charging station. It essentially just changes the plug from the Tesla to the plug for almost every other EV out there. And once that happens, I will have a lot more options for chargers. But I've taken it to Columbus from Pittsburgh. I've taken it to Cleveland from Pittsburgh. And then I just recently did a trip up north Pennsylvania. So I've driven it a couple of times on a couple like small trips. And you just got to plan it out. You have to plan out when you're going to stop. And, the one frustration has been a lot of these non-Tesla chargers, like they'll say there's seven available and you'll show up and two or three of them's working. So every once in a while you got to wait till somebody's done charging. And these people, I mean, they plug their vehicle in and they go walk around a store or whatever, they might be gone for an hour, right? They do have idle fees, so eventually they're going to come back. So there was one situation when I took it up to Erie. This is right after I got the truck where it was supposed to have seven chargers, only two were working, and I had to wait for I would say about a half an hour to get an actual working charger. And then the charging times are longer, right? You fill up your gas tank, it's 2, 3 minutes. It takes for me to go from like 20 to 80%, which is usually what you're doing on these chargers when you're traveling. It probably takes about a half hour overall, which it's faster on like a Model Y Tesla. I mean, it's a smaller battery, and I think the Tesla chargers are just more efficient and faster. They're able to take more kilowatt hours at one time. So maybe it'll be a little bit quicker once I can start using the Tesla chargers. I hope that is the case. So long trips would be probably a nightmare. I think if I was going to do like a 10-hour plus trip, I would probably end up renting a vehicle or, using somebody else's, just swapping vehicles with somebody for a little while, get a gas powered vehicle for that trip. Or, if I end up getting, if you end up getting one of those Teslas, they're a lot better on a trip. You stop for 10, 15 minutes and charge and you're up and rolling, which sometimes is nice just to get out of the vehicle, stretch your legs, whatever. And I've gone on a couple of trips with my buddy who's got the Model Y, and he has never had an issue with a Tesla charger. Their uptimes are significant, and then Tesla, it's all built into their touchscreen and everything. That like when you're going through a trip, it tells you where to stop. It already makes sure there's enough available chargers. So it takes the thinking out of it. So with other manufacturers, Ford, Chevy, whatever, you're gonna have a lot more planning when you're going on a trip. Now, once I can use the Tesla network, that planning will get reduced significantly, but it's still not built into my system the way that it is on like a Tesla. I talked a little bit about it. Hot and cold weather reduces the range. That's why I'm expecting my bill to go up. I usually like when it's like 60 to 80 degrees, I'm getting, 3 or 4 miles per kilowatt hour on my Ford F-150 Lightning. That reduces significantly in the winter time, right? So if it's below 40, I'm probably getting around 2 miles per kilowatt hour. So maybe instead of 80, it's probably based on 2,500 miles. The maximum I'm probably going to see is around $125 per month. Still a significant savings. And then the other thing you have to get used to is what most people call range anxiety. And you will. When you're going from a gas powered vehicle where there's gas stations everywhere, you're not worried about, oh, I'm on empty. I'll just hit this next gas station. No big deal. When, especially if you're outside, like I feel like Tesla, there's chargers everywhere. I mean, they're legit everywhere. But if you're charging based off of like a non-Tesla charger, there's a lot less out there. Like in the greater Pittsburgh area that I'm driving in, there's maybe a handful of chargers within a 10-mile radius. I could absolutely get to one if I needed to get to one to charge. But that is one of the things like that. Oh, if I forget to plug in, if I just get home every night, plug your vehicle in, and the longer, so I've now owned it for about 4 or 5 months now. The longer I've owned it, the less and less my range anxiety is there, to the point where probably in the next month or two, I'm probably going to have no range anxiety anymore. I'm just going to automatically know where everything is, how it's going to work. And especially once I get that Tesla adapter, it's going to be probably zero range anxiety at that point. Okay, so going over the estimated savings, and it's estimated, I don't have an exact numbers, but just breaking it down, I was spending anywhere from 600 to $1,000 a month in gas, depending on how many miles I was driving. And again, the most that I would see this EV costing me to charge at home every month is about 125 bucks. Now, if I go on a long trip, I have to factor those costs in, and I'm going to say it's about the same cost to charge versus gas when you're doing like a long trip. Um, so not really going to save you any money on long trips, and it's actually going to take you longer because it takes longer to charge versus filling up your tank. My payment went down $250 a month, and then just the yearly stuff, oil changes and emissions and stuff like that, probably 500-600 bucks a year that I save there. So it's a little over $10,000 a year I'm saving by owning the EV versus owning my Bronco. And some of that just monthly payment went down, and but a lot of it is the actual cost to run the vehicle, the gas cost versus the electricity cost. Huge savings. And $10,000 a year is going to help me recuperate some of my reserves and put some more money towards paying off this vehicle. So then my ROI goes up significantly once this is paid off because now I won't have a monthly payment on the vehicle. Anyways, I just want to give a kind of snapshot of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're thinking about getting an EV vehicle and you have some questions, I mean, hit me up. I've been using X a lot lately, so it's at ENS Hoover on X, or you can shoot me an email, hit me up just about anywhere. Anyways, I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm actually really happy with going with the EV route. I don't see myself going back to a daily driver that's engine based ever again. And that might maybe a hybrid or something at some point if they have a cool like Bronco hybrid or something. But I just don't see me going back to a typical gas guzzling vehicle for my daily driver. One thing, once things kind of get super comfortable again, which they will in the near future for me, I could see myself getting like a cheap sports car, throwing it in the garage. I take out a day or two a week or something during the summertime. I just like having a little car to have some fun with, right? A little speed, a little fun. But otherwise, I'm very, very happy. I would say my only regret, that wouldn't even be a regret, but if there was an option similar, just think Cybertruck only a lot cheaper that's available through Tesla. I would have much rather had a Tesla than this Ford, just because of all the extra technology, all the stats they have. Like if you just ride in a Tesla, it's like they thought of everything, which that might actually be a con for some people, right? Like I've ridden in Teslas with some other people, and they think that it's too much, right? Oh, there's too much going on here with the screen and the it's just too much for people. And in that scenario, the F-150 Lightning would be a really good fit because it really just feels like a normal vehicle. It feels like I'm driving an F-150 with no engine noise. That's a little bit faster than a typical F-150. So I'm definitely not regretting my purchase. I think it was great. I think this is going to be a truck I'm going to own for a very, very long time. My goal is to pay it off and then just have it be, my work vehicle, my side vehicle, and then I'll get like a nicer, daily driver, either a Model S or a Cybertruck, and then maybe have. If I get a Cybertruck, I'll probably have like a cheap gas sports car that I like a Mustang or something I throw in the garage at some point because I do miss my Jaguar a little bit. Anyways, I hope you guys out there are reducing your bills and budgeting and doing the right things and adding reserves to that. And I hope this video helped you think about some options there. If you haven't already, go scoop up my book on Amazon. It's called Short Term Memory Loss by E.N.S. Hoover. It is the ultimate sales book that I wrote to help you kind of better your life on a day-to-day basis using the power of sales. No, it's not just for salespeople. If you want to get a promotion at work, there's going to be some great information in there for you. If you want to save money on the new vehicle you're purchasing, yeah, there's some negotiation tips in there that's going to help you. You can use the information in that book to better your life. So go pick that up. If you're a Kindle subscriber, it's free. I think it's $7 for the Kindle version and $12 for the printed version. And if you live in the Pittsburgh area and you buy the book, let me know when you get it. We can link up in person. I'd be happy to sign your book. And thank you for the support there. And Just yeah, thank you for everything, and we'll see you on the next video. I got a couple great interviews lined up, so my interview series is going to keep rocking and rolling, and then I'm going to be making more content like this. So I hope you guys are enjoying. Have a good day. Signing off.